Wonderful. Well, once again, thank you all so much for coming today to participate in our demo. One of the things that we like to do in the Holistic Chef program is becoming present in the moment. So we're just going to take a few grounding breaths before we get started. So just if you have any tension anywhere in your body, just kind of acknowledge it. Maybe give yourself a couple neck rolls and shoulder rolls. And then when it feels good, coming to a place of stillness where we can really focus on our breathing. With every deep breath in, just letting that belly expand. And on the exhale, just letting everything go. And just giving yourself that presence of mind and body, feeling that breath moving through you. And giving yourself the permission to relax and be here with us. Take one more big deep breath in at your own pace. And then on the exhale, feel free to open your eyes and come on back. All right. Well, today we are making all manner of wonderful holiday treats. We're going to be making a cranberry orange rosemary shrub mocktail. It's a huge mouthful, also delicious mouthful. So, the first thing we're going to start with, though, is our cookies. And these gingerbread cookies are gluten-free. They are also dairy-free, so they can be really beneficial for people that follow different diets. So, I'm going to get started, show you my setup. One of the things that we do in the chef program is teach you all about mise en place. That is the French term for everything in its place. So having everything measured out and ready to go. So for these cookies, we are going to be making these delightful gluten-free chewy gingerbread cookies. And they have not just dried ginger in them, but also a little bit of fresh ginger for a beautiful kick. So first, we're going to start with our dry ingredients. We have our gluten-free flour. And what's great about this recipe is you can use any blend that you like. So if you like Bob's Red Mill, if you like the King Arthur, or if you want to make your own blend, that's great. And I like to make my own blend. So what I do is chickpea flour, tapioca starch, and brown rice flour mixed with a little bit of psyllium husk. And Joy is going to talk a little bit about some of the benefits of these ingredients in a little bit. In addition to our flowers, we have all of these beautiful spices that are going to add that warm, just comforting feeling to these cookies. So, a lot of cinnamon. We have some cloves, a little bit of salt for bring out all of that beautiful flavor, tons of ginger, and a little bit of nutmeg. Okay. We also have our leavening agent in here, which is going to be baking soda. That's going to allow our cookies to get a little bit fluffy and give us that nice chew. So we're going to whisk up all of our dry ingredients, get them nice and incorporated. And I like using a whisk for this. Instead of sifting your flours, just using a whisk and doing some nice vigorous whisking can get you mixed up and also lighten up your flour as you go. Okay. All right, we're going to set that aside and then we're going to work with our wet ingredients. So I have here my fresh ginger. I usually mince this on a microplane. You can also chop it up really fine, but we want to incorporate it really nicely. So having that kind of pasty consistency will mix in beautifully with the rest of our cookies. Okay. Then we're going to add some vanilla extract. We have a little bit of maple syrup. Get all of that goodness out of your cups. I love these tiny little spatulas, very effective. And then instead of using butter, like a lot of people do, especially for their holiday cookies, we're going to be using coconut oil for this, which is why it's dairy free. So we'll add in our coconut oil, and you want this to be melted so that you can incorporate it nicely into your wet ingredients. Okay. We have molasses. So, molasses, really wonderful. It adds in that great flavor. And again, Joy is going to talk a little bit about these ingredients and some of their benefits. Adds a really nice treacly flavor. Goes really well with those warm spices. And then finally, our last sweetener is going to be some coconut sugar. So instead of using a conventional brown sugar or white sugar, we're using some of these alternative sweeteners. So it kind of goes along with the holistic theme of this recipe. And then the last ingredient for our wets is an egg. And I'll show you a quick tip. Making sure that you don't get shells in your wet ingredients in anything that you're cracking an egg to. Instead of cracking the egg on the side of your bowl, crack it on a flat surface. That'll create a really nice dimple so that then you can go ahead and break your egg without getting any of the shell left behind. All right, we're going to mix these up, get all of our wet ingredients well incorporated, and then incorporate them into our dry ingredients. So from here, I'm going to keep mixing away, forming my dough, and I'm going to pass it over to Joy Lynn to talk about some of these beautiful ingredients.
Thank you, Chef Martina. Before I get started, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your traditions and your recipes with us because
Yeah,
just reading through the recipes and the ingredients, I could tell how thoughtful you were in your choice of recipes. So thank you so much.
absolutely.
I will start by talking about some of the star spices in these cookies. And I love talking about spices because not only do the spices add so much flavor to everything, they also offer significant health benefits. And at Bauman, we actually categorize spices, we call them booster foods because they sort of just deserve their own category and they deserve a little bit more attention. But anyways, the first one, sort of the star spice, one of the star spices here is cinnamon. And cinnamon is a spice that's used worldwide in Europe, Asia, Africa, the Americas. It's one of the oldest spices used throughout the world. In ancient Egypt, it was used as an embalming agent. In ancient Rome, it was considered more precious than gold. It's long been used as medicine in both Eastern and Western cultures, and it's been used to treat conditions like arthritis, asthma, insomnia, and fever. In traditional Chinese medicine, cinnamon is a component of herbal formulas that treat epilepsy, the flu, and frostbite. In Ayurvedic medicine, practitioners incorporate cinnamon to treat depression and weight gain. Cinnamon is anti-inflammatory and helps decreases in the liver. It's high in antioxidants that can slow cell damage. The US Department of Agriculture indicates that consuming about just a half teaspoon of cinnamon per day leads to dramatic improvements in blood sugar, LDL cholesterol, and triglycerides. So the next spice I wanted to highlight is ginger, which is one of the spices that I use oftentimes in my own kitchen, especially when during cold and flu season, when someone's feeling under the weather. I love incorporating ginger, especially in soups. But ginger has long been valued for culinary and medicinal properties. Ginger contains anti-inflammatory compounds called gingerols, and it was once a spice used to fight the plague, which blows my mind. In modern day, it's used to stave off symptoms of motion sickness. It helps with nausea during pregnancy, reduces pain levels for those dealing with osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. It's also an ingredient used to fight migraines. It's prized for its ability to soothe the intestinal tract, and it is a carminative, which is basically just a fancy word for it relieves gas. So it's also very useful for people dealing with irritable bowel syndrome. Let's see. My next spice that I wanted to talk about really quickly was nutmeg, which was a very popular spice, even during biblical times. And wealthy Europeans would sort of flaunt their wealth using nutmeg. They would carry it around with them, and during mealtime, they would pull it out and season their meat and their wine with nutmeg. And it was sort of like a status symbol back then. But the health benefits, it's long been used to ease symptoms of diarrhea and gas. And in animal studies, it's been shown to be very protective of the liver. I want to also call attention to the psyllium husk that Martina added to her gluten-free flour blend. Psyllium husk is a soluble fiber derived from the seeds of an herb. It's available in the form of husk, granules, capsules, or powder. I believe Chef Martina used powder there.
Mhm.
Um, it is a prebiotic, so it promotes the growth of healthy bacteria in the gut. It can help regulate blood sugar levels by slowing down digestion. It helps with both constipation and diarrhea, and it's a great way to increase fiber intake. And it is also the main ingredient in Metamucil, the laxative Metamucil, which I did not know that. Um, it's also been found to help lower cholesterol levels since it binds to the cholesterol during the digestion process.
And specifically with the psyllium husk. So I'm starting to roll out my cookie dough now. After getting it all well incorporated, we have all of our ingredients really nicely mixed into this homogeneous dough. What's really great about the psyllium husk is it's going to give us great texture in these gluten-free cookies. So instead of being a little crumbly, a little dry, that binding sort of mucilaginous effect of psyllium husk is going to create a really lovely texture for our cookies. So just wanted to point that out while I'm rolling it out. You can see the texture that is coming from the psyllium husks. And then I think, did you have something to talk about for molasses as well, Joy?
I do. I just have a quick question about your psyllium husk. Will you use psyllium husk in savory preparations as well if you wanted to do something gluten-free there as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. Psyllium husk is really wonderful for all gluten-free baking. So whether you're making bread, you're making cookies, it's a really great way to add that sort of binding effect that we would normally be getting from the gluten itself. We can use other things, things like xanthan gum and guar gum, but those often can cause more digestive upset. So psyllium husk, being such a wonderful fiber, actually works really nicely without some of those side effects of that digestive upset.
Mm, very
Wonderful. And
interesting.
so you can see here when I'm rolling out, it's sticky. I am not adding any extra flour though, because more flour can actually make your cookies a little bit tougher. So what I like to do is coat my rolling pin sometimes in a little bit of oil or even put a little bit of flour directly on this so that I don't need to add extra when I'm rolling them out. And for these cookies, what's great is you can kind of make them your own. If you'd like a thicker, chewier cookie, you can roll it out to be about a half of an inch thick. Or if you like a little bit more snap, you can roll them out to be about an eighth of an inch. So that is what I'm doing. I like a little bit of a chew and a little bit of a snap. So we're going for about a quarter inch here. And I'm going to cut out some cute little festive shapes now. So you'll also notice that I rolled out my dough on a piece of parchment paper. Because I'm not adding extra flour, this can actually really help so that I'm not having to transfer from whatever surface I'm rolling out to onto my parchment paper. I can do it directly on it, and then all I have to do is peel away the scrap dough that I haven't used. Wonderful. We'll get a couple Christmas trees in there. Of course, we have to do some gingerbread shapes. We're making gingerbread. Okay. And then finally, I love a good snowflake. I know for a lot of you, though you said you're in Cincinnati, you may not want to see too much more snow, so we can always do other shapes as well. But what's really great about this gluten-free dough is we're not worried about overworking it. We're not worried about overdeveloping the gluten because there isn't any in here. So what I can do with all of this scrap dough is roll it back up into a ball and then roll it back out again. So you don't necessarily have to worry about having your last batches of cookies being tougher, being chewier. we can just keep reusing this dough so it actually works out really nicely for not wasting any as well.
No waste.
All right. So these can go again, like I said, back into a ball. They can get re-rolled out. But for the sake of time, I want to get these in the oven. For this particular thickness, so I said again that I did about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to put them in a 350-degree oven for probably about 8 to 12 minutes. If I want that chew, or if I want more of a snap, you can let them cook for even up to 15. And if you're wanting to make a gingerbread house for this season, you can bake them a little bit longer and it actually holds up as really structural as well if you bake it just for a few more minutes. All right. Get them in the oven. And then we're going to switch over to our mocktail. So this is the fun part, right? This is what you all are here for, the cranberry, rosemary, orange shrub mocktail. Let me wash off my hands really fast. And while I do that, I'm actually going to have Joy talk a little bit about some of the ingredients here.
So, Chef Martina is using apple cider vinegar, and that is made by mixing crushed apples with yeast, apples with yeast, sugar, and another carb. And after a few weeks, the natural bacteria and yeast ferment the juice, changing the carb into alcohol. And the second fermentation process changes the alcohol into acetic acid, which gives apple cider vinegar that sour smell and taste. It's been known to lower cholesterol and triglycerides while raising good cholesterol. Studies have shown that it keeps us feeling fuller and longer, which can curb the need for snacking, which is why it's touted as a weight management tool. And because there are probiotics in apple cider vinegar, it helps balance and feed our beneficial gut bacteria, which in turn contributes to our immune health. Apple cider vinegar has been shown to improve both the fasting and post-meal glucose spikes. So it helps insulin work better. It increases the uptake of glucose in our muscles, and it slows our absorption of food. Um, Chef Martina, did you want me to keep on going and talk about cranberries and rosemary, or did you want to get started on that?
Yeah, let me go ahead and I'll kind of explain the process of the shrub and then I'll pass it back to you. So, Joy was talking a little bit about apple cider vinegar. So, this magic concoction in this jar right here is the shrub. It's also called a drinking vinegar. And what's great about this is that it's all about a little bit of fermentation. So, we're getting beautiful probiotics that can help with digestion. And the process is very simple. So I started this one, you can see on the date here, 11/4. So it's been hanging out for about a month, getting all of that beautiful flavor sitting in my refrigerator. But when it started, it was 2 cups of fresh cranberries, the peel or zest from some oranges, a couple sticks of cinnamon, and a couple sprigs of rosemary. To that, I muddled it all up, so mashed up the cranberries and then added in my apple cider vinegar and honey. So this is going to sort of be the process that we let sit for anywhere from a few days to up to 10 sometimes, which will add in those beautiful probiotics and concentrate the flavor. So this you need to do a little bit in advance, and then we're going to mix it up with some of these other ingredients to make our fancy mocktail. So I'll show you how to do a couple different versions. You can see I have my wine glass here or just a standard old-fashioned glass, and you can prepare it a couple different ways. So if I'm using something like an old-fashioned glass, I like to put just a nice slice of orange in the bottom. Grab a muddler, or if you don't have a muddler, the back of a wooden spoon will work perfectly. Okay. From here, we're going to add in a couple tablespoons of our shrub mixture. So again, this has been developing flavor, adding in all those beautiful probiotics. So we're going to add a couple tablespoons of that shrub mixture. We're going to put in some frozen cranberries. Not only is that going to keep your mocktail nice and cold, but it also adds a nice little tart punch to it. We'll add in a little bit of ice. A sprig of rosemary looks so festive, like a little evergreen branch. And then we're going to top it off with just a little bit of sparkling water or soda water. I like using a plain one because I love to taste all of those beautiful flavors, but you can add in other flavors if there is a particular type of soda water you like. And I'll change the view so you can see it from the side. So there we have it in the old-fashioned glass. And while I mix up the wine glass version, then Joy, if you want to talk a little bit about some of our other ingredients.
Yes, I think cranberries are a rock star here. Cranberries help prevent and eliminate urinary tract infections. The components found in cranberries prevent E. coli from adhering to the mucosal lining in the urethra and the bladder. The cranberries were widely used in Native American culture, not only as a food, but as medicine, as a poultice for wounds, and as an astringent to help stop bleeding. And when it was combined with cornmeal, it was used to counteract blood poisoning. So it's an excellent source of vitamin C, soluble and insoluble fiber, manganese, copper, and it's a rich source of anthocyanidins, which is a plant-based chemical that gives cranberries their color and that have antioxidant properties, which fight free radicals. Cranberries contain 5 times more antioxidants than broccoli, and these antioxidants are shown to inhibit atherosclerosis, cancer, and other degenerative diseases. In test tube studies, cranberries are found to be useful in preventing prostate cancer. And the last ingredient I just wanted to highlight really quickly was, or is rosemary. In 2016, a compilation of studies was released on the anti-cancer effects of rosemary and rosemary oil. It has shown to inhibit cancer cells in studies regarding colon cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, and leukemia. And so these were done both in vitro and in vivo studies. In vitro means in a test tube, in vivo means in a live organism. Um, we are still waiting for human studies, but the use of rosemary and rosemary oil seems very promising. And it's the perfect herb to complement and complete Chef Martina's drink. So cheers.
Wonderful. So you can see I've got now my final version in my wine glass. If you're going for something a little bit fancier, a little bit more elevated, or the standard old-fashioned, beautiful and refreshing mocktail full of beneficial probiotics, also packed with flavor. But just so you can see, I did a little movie magic so you can see what the finished cookies look like. And one thing that I really love about them is you can see the speckles, and these speckles are actually from the coconut sugar. So that natural sort of speckled look is because the palm sugar kind of bursts as it's baking, which is a lot of fun. And then for topping them, I love eating them plain, but if you want to dress them up a little bit, you can dip them in a little dark chocolate or even fill a piping bag, like doing just cute little squiggles on my Christmas trees. So a little piped dark chocolate is a great way to add, again, a little bit of extra flavor component, some depth. Or you can use powdered coconut sugar. So just a little bit sprinkled over the top is a great way to add just a little bit of color, flavor, and some textural interest to your cookies. We'll take a couple of them on the plate, pair them with our mocktail, and there you have it. It's a pretty fun little festive treat.